Thanks for attending the hybrid meeting for Planning Committee, Tuesday the 6th of December 22. If I have a coughing fit, please excuse me. It's just my chest, it'll be all right. I've not got germs. Please note that this committee is being streamed live on YouTube. My name is Councillor June Molyneux, Chair of the committee, Councillor Alex Hilton as Vice Chair. If you're a member of the public who's registered to speak, you'll have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and will confirm when your time runs out. You should then finish, or if in the middle of making a point, wind up within a few seconds, otherwise you will be muted. For ease, a pack's been prepared which contains the report, plans and presentation slides for each item to ensure everyone can easily follow the agenda. This is available online. After the officers have presented the report and any speakers have made their representations, I'll invite members to make their comments. When you want to speak, please raise your hand to indicate to me that you wish to speak, and when invited, please turn on your microphone and then switch it off when you finish speaking. When speaking, please reference the page, paragraph number to enable everyone to follow you. Apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Beaver. Councillor Ainsworth is substituting. Councillor Whittam, Councillor Lowe is substituting, and also from Councillors Boardman and Whitaker. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The minutes of Tuesday the 8th of November 2022. Could somebody move those minutes, please? Thank you. There's a motion second. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of any interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda. If you have such an interest, you must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence the decision. So I have any declarations? No? If not, we'll move on to item 3, planning applications to be determined. There are 8 items for us to determine tonight. Plans to be considered will be displayed at the meeting or may be viewed in advance by following the links to the current planning applications. For the benefit of the public here tonight, the speaking arrangements for planning are as follows. The officers will summarise the report and registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order. Objector, supporter, parish attend councillor, ward councillor, applicant or agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, apart from a ward councillor who may speak for 5 minutes. In the event that all speakers are against an application, as chair, I will grant the applicant or agent a time extension. I would respectfully ask members of the public who have not registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings, and could you switch all your mobile phones to silent, please? With that, we go on to item 3. What I'm going to do, item 3A, B and C are all Cuerden Hall, Shady Lane. So we'll just have one preamble and present the report, and then we will vote on each application separately. So that goes from pages 5 to 88 is A. B is 89 to 106, and C is 107 to 124 in your pack. Okay. There is an update on the addendum, and I was going to present the items with appropriate recommendations. The registered speakers are the Parish Town Councillor Sarah Elsey and the applicant agent Tom Flanagan, the agent. Adele, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. These applications relate to the Grade 2 style listed building of Cuerden Hall and the attached Grade 2 listed stable block that are located in the Greenbelt, approximately 1 mile to the south of Bamber Bridge on the eastern side of Shady Lane. The grounds of the hall extend to approximately 6.5 hectares and include formal lawns, parking areas, hard standing, woodland and Grade 2 listed iron gates. The majority of the application site is also subject to a woodland tree preservation order. The hall was originally erected as a dwelling in the early 18th century, but most recently has been in use as a care home operated by Sue Ryder Care, having been converted from offices in the latter half of the 1980s. The building has been vacant since 2020 when Sue Ryder moved to a purpose-built facility in Preston. Full planning permission and listed building consent are now sought for the change of use of the vacant care home back to its original use as a residential dwelling. The proposal includes for substantial restoration work along with delivering staff and guest accommodation, extensions to the building in the form of a conservatory and swimming pool enclosure and the erection of outbuildings. The scheme has been revised since its original submission in response to concerns raised by the case officer, technical consultee and local residents, most notably to propose the repair rather than the infilling of a tunnel which passes below the driveway to the hall, to amend the design of the swimming pool roof and to remove gates that were proposed which would have blocked access between Cuerden Close and the driveway to the hall and Shady Lane. Representations have been received from 5 individuals, Councillor Mark Clifford and the Parish Council in objection to the proposal, and 1 neutral representation has been received. The objections cite issues including ecological harm, highway and pedestrian safety and conflict with the Chorley local plan. As explained in detail in the committee report, there are no outstanding objections from any of the technical consultees subject to the imposition of conditions. Whilst there has been criticism on the scope of ecological assessments within neighbour representations and from the Parish Council, the Council's ecological advisors and Natural England are satisfied with the submitted assessments. Mitigation is proposed to offset potential harm to bats in the form of a dedicated bat roof space in the attic void of the stables building. Members will be aware that the framework contains exemptions for certain forms of development that are not considered to represent inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. One such exemption is the reuse of buildings, providing they are of permanent and substantial construction and would not have a materially greater impact upon the openness of the Greenbelt and the purposes of including land within it than the existing development. Such proposals must also comply with policy HS9 of the Chorley local plan. Another exemption is the extension or alteration of a building, providing it does not result in disproportionate additions over and above the size of the original building. The Council typically allows extensions that represent up to 50% of the volume of the original building. In this case, the proposed extensions represent an approximate 14% increase in built form and are therefore considered to be acceptable. The proposed change of use also complies with policy HS9 of the local plan and the framework. The proposal includes outbuildings in the form of a glass house, polytunnel, tea house, gate lodges and gates. These do not fall within any of the exceptions of the framework and so are considered to be inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, resulting in some low-level harm, but nonetheless must be given substantial weight in the planning balance. The Council does take a pragmatic approach to development of domestic outbuildings within a residential curtilage and makes provision for the equivalent of a double garage, a small shed and a small greenhouse in a single dwelling in the countryside through the Householder Design Guidance Supplementary Planning Document. The approval of the application would result in the hall returning to being used as a substantially sized dwelling with no existing outbuildings. Given the size and grandeur of the hall, the proposed additional buildings are relatively modest in scale. In this instance, therefore, it is considered that the proposed buildings are acceptable under the requirements of the SPD. Due to the dwelling being listed, it does not benefit from permitted development rights for outbuildings, and so the local planning authority will retain control over any further proposed outbuildings at this site. Some elements of the proposal, namely a new staircase, conservatory and swimming pool extensions, would cause some harm to the historic significance of the hall. This harm is of low to medium impact and less than substantial scale, and must be given great weight in the planning balance. The local planning authority must therefore consider the wider public benefits of the proposal against the level of harm to the significance of the heritage assets affected in its planning balance. As noted by Historic England in their consultation response to these applications, the applicant has carefully considered the proposals, which respond sensitively to the significance of the listed building. The reconfiguration of the interior of the building and the reconsideration of the wider landscape master plan address concerns that have arisen due to the previous use of the building and will have a positive impact. The proposal would nevertheless result in less than substantial harm to the character of the listed building by virtue of the new extensions and would result in harm to the Greenbelt by virtue of the proposed additional outbuildings. On balance, it is considered that the wider public benefits of bringing the listed building back to its original use as a single dwelling, the associated programme of restoration work and the flexibility of domestic outbuildings provided by the Council's Householder Design Guidance SPD amount to very special circumstances that comfortably outweigh the harm caused by the proposal. Other issues noted in the committee report can be adequately controlled by planning conditions, and both the full planning application and the listed building consent applications are therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, thanks Adele. Sarah, would you like to speak now, please? You can do.
Of Cuerden Hall. However, we object to any removal of access rights for residents who live directly in front of the hall during and after this major development. This small estate was built over 50 years ago for army personnel who were based at Cuerden Hall. Residents are worried as they have had access rights to their homes for well over 50 years, but current plans show gates at lodges off Shady Lane, leading to the hall. Houses on Cuerden Close do not have access to gas and rely on regular deliveries of oil. They require access to ambulances and refuse collections. William Tay of Lancashire Highways referred to the narrow road, stating, "Reversing from long distances presents more risks than travelling forward, particularly large vehicles. I would count ambulances and service vehicles in this category." He highlights that the junction appears to be operating well at the moment under current conditions and is used by less traffic due to traffic being distributed over the north and south accesses. The situation would be exacerbated if all the traffic was directed south as a result of the proposed closure of the north end of Cuerden Close during any works. Highways comment again in October this year, seeking clarification that the temporary access gate will not be introduced at the junction of Shady Lane. For Highways to comment on this matter not only once but twice must be significant and surely show how important safety issues resulting in any restriction of access would be. William Tay refers to safety implications if all access and egress is removed. Should any work on the road surface around the cinder path and tunnel be required, as happened with the previous owners, Sue Ryder, residents could be directed past the hall and out via Berkeley Drive. Approval for this application must come with a provision that, if necessary, traffic is rerouted temporarily, allowing north and south access to Cuerden Close. Once this application goes ahead, residents living in front of the hall will be living with major construction works, noise and disruption for the next 5 years or more. Councillors, as you know, it is not often that Lancashire Highways makes such comments on an application. Not once but twice they have stated their serious concerns that any removal of access to Cuerden Close and the associated safety implications brought them to the conclusion that this proposal must be resisted in November 2021. I ask you to reassure residents living in front of the hall that the disruption for 5 years or more be kept to a minimum and that residents have unimpeded access from Shady Lane to their properties at all times, and they need not have to worry that one day they may come home to find a gate in front of Cuerden Close blocking them from access to their homes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have I got Tom, please?
Good evening, Planning Committee. My name is Tom Flanagan of Paul Butler Associates, the planning consultants for these applications. There are just a few comments that I'd like to make. From the outset of this project, the applicant has been clear on his intentions to progress a scheme of exceptional design quality that respects the heritage significance of the existing buildings. The applicant employed Purcell as architects and heritage consultants, a company who have recently been ranked #1 practice in the world architecture's heritage sector, and Tom Stewart Smith Landscape Design Practice, who have worked on renowned projects such as RHS Bridgewater, Chatsworth Hall and Hampton Court. The applicant will be making Cuerden Hall his home and wants to ensure that the works to the buildings and grounds will provide them with a new lease of life and secure their long-term future. The proposed scheme will have significant benefits for the Cuerden Hall site, particularly from a heritage perspective. The hall has suffered in recent years through insensitive alterations to facilitate a care home with an institutional character, whilst a lack of use and maintenance of the stable block has resulted in it falling into a poor state of repair. The proposals will sensitively convert the hall back to its original use as a single country home, reversing the significant modern intervention subdivisions and allowing for the repair and restoration of the building fabric. The current landscaping has a detrimental impact, whilst the proposed will return a sense of formality and high quality planting. The proposals will have significant positive impacts for the Grade 2 star and Grade 2 listed buildings and the landscaping in which they sit. The scheme will also bring other planning benefits, including the proposed residential use will be less intensive in terms of vehicular movements and parking requirements than the existing use. There will be a greater level of soft landscaping and the provision of 50 new trees. There will be no impact on neighbouring residents' amenity. The increase in permeable surfacing and soft landscaping will reduce surface runoff, and the scheme proposes ecological enhancements in the form of soft landscaping, bird bat boxes and a bat mitigation strategy. The design team have developed the proposals in close consultation with Chorley Council, the local community and statutory consultees, with numerous changes being made to the scheme. The scheme is supported by Historic England, the Georgian Group, Natural England, as well as Chorley Council's Heritage, Ecology and Highways advisors. The proposed scheme is therefore well considered. In summary, the proposed scheme is in accordance with national and local planning policy guidance. The applicant is passionate about Cuerden Hall and is committed to investing significant monies into its restoration for its original use, rather than seeking a more commercially viable option. He will continue to work closely with Chorley Council and the local community to protect the buildings and sensitively deliver the scheme. Thank you.
Okay, Adele.
Thank you, Chair. Just in response to some of the comments that have been made by the Parish Council and to clarify matters for members, the scheme has changed since it was originally submitted, and it's not unusual for the local highway authority to make a series of comments through the assessment phase of the application. Lancashire County Council's formal comments are reported at paragraph 27 of your report. They're satisfied with the scheme, and in order to mitigate any harms from the construction traffic, members will note that at condition 15 there's a traffic management plan condition, and conditions 16 and 17 will secure future access for the local residents. Thank you, Chair.
Right, over to you, members. Somebody out there. Councillor Marwood.
I'll make a start. Thank you, Chair. I've listened to the concerns that have been raised. Obviously, ecology and access are the two main ones, and as Adele has said, mitigation has been put in place in terms of bat conditions, and the conditions 16 and 17 seem to cover the access that residents are concerned about. So on the whole, I think those concerns have been covered and been mitigated, and I'm quite happy with that at this present time. Generally speaking, I think this is an amazing project. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to look like, but it will be a stunning building when it's finished. Yes, it's going to be a long time in doing it, 5 years, but at the end of the day, I think it will be a stunning contribution to the area, and at the moment I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. I also agree with what Councillor Moor said. I think this is a really, really great planning application, and I welcome this development. It's going to allow continued use of a historic building and substantially improve it. The applicant has the right to cut off access should they choose to do so, but they've actually chosen to work with the local residents by allowing continued access. They don't actually have to do that. It isn't a legal right of access as far as I'm aware, so they've shown goodwill in being able to do that. Fully support this application, and I wish the applicant all the best of luck with it in protecting this heritage asset moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a comment? Councillor Heaton.
Better? Is that on now? Press the wrong button.
You've got a red light.
Yeah. Did anybody second that proposal? No, you seconded it, did you? I missed that. I'll third it then.
Okay. If everybody's said we'll do vote. We'll do 3A first, which is the change of use. So all those in favour, please show. That's it. Alex?
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve the application for planning permission subject to conditions.
Thanks. Right, moving on, we'll go on to 3B, which is listed building consent for the hall. All those in favour? Okay, Alex?
Thank you, Chair. Members have again voted unanimously for listed building consent to the hall.
And item 3C, which is listed building consent for the stables. Ooh, it's quick tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve listed building consent to benefit the stables.
Yeah, thank you. If you've just come for that item and you wish to go, please feel free. It's very quick tonight, isn't it? Sometimes it takes ages. A, B, C. Right, moving on. I've lost my place. Oh, there we are. Item 3D, Peewit Farm, Moor Road, Anglezarke, pages 125 to 154, with an update on your addendum, including conditions. Ian's going to present this item that planning permission is granted subject to conditions and a Section 106 agreement. And I have one registered speaker, and objector Peter Gatley. Ian, you want to present the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the erection of 3 detached dwellings following the demolition of the existing workshops and storage buildings. The application site's located in the West Pennine Moors area of other open countryside at Anglezarke and comprises 2 parcels of land currently occupied by buildings, a number of buildings used for storage and in connection with a repair and maintenance of motor vehicles. And the 2 parcels of land are situated either side of Moor Road. The site is previously developed land in line with the definitions set out in the National Planning Policy Framework. The local plan seeks to protect this part of the borough from unacceptable development, which would harm its open and rural character. The proposed development would redevelop the site, replacing a number of functional storage and workshop buildings with 3 dwellings of a scale that would not be materially larger and would not have a greater impact on openness. The dwellings would be well contained within the developed areas of the site and would be of a design, style and materials to reflect the traditional character of the existing nearby buildings of quality. There will be no adverse impacts on the amenity of any existing occupiers as a result of the proposed development, and there will be no unacceptable highway impacts or ecology impacts. All issues are covered in detail within the committee report, and the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out in the addendum and the Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Peter?
Hi. I'm not against the buildings going up. I'm concerned about the entrance opposite my house more than anything else. They try to access through there. I've had my wall knocked down on either side 4 times, twice by the applicant. And only 2 weeks ago, the same thing happened. He took the wall down, actually going in there. It's a very dangerous road. I know the highways have come back and said that it isn't substantially dangerous, but it's a single track road going down there, and in the evening people use it as a racetrack. They actually turn in and they reverse straight back out. I know there's not been a lot said accident wise because a lot of drug taking goes on the viewpoint, and they race up and down there, and it's really dangerous. So if the entrance was opposite my house, I do think someone will be severely injured cyclists come down there and they're coming from the top and they come down at a really, really high speed. There's no way of stopping them. I've seen so many near accidents, and I have seen accidents. 9 times out of 10, the people that have the accidents don't report them because they're high on drugs. And it is an issue. I don't know whether you could put speed bumps in the road to stop it, but outside my house is something that I really do object to. And as going for the 2 dwellings in the field behind, where it's been developed without planning permission and the buildings have been put up, and obviously they're saying it's unsightly now. It's been screened off because them buildings shouldn't have been there in the first place. And it just seems to me that by maintaining that in a bad way, that you seek to gain access to develop on that land. There's a wildlife over on that side. Obviously, the trees have a preservation order on, so we'd need to know that the trees are going to stay intact. It's going to be fully screened off the road. But I just feel as though by keeping land in that kind of way, you get the benefits of being able to put 2 houses on it. And I just don't see the benefit in any way. You've got the police that'd have to come up there, ambulance services, fire services, which are being drawn out of Chorley. It is a problem. My house has been on fire, and it takes a long time to get them rescue services up there.
Yeah, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, through you. Just a couple of items to note for the committee. There's a number of buildings on the site. The site has grown organically over time without the benefit of planning permission. There's a number of buildings that are on the site that have become lawful through the passage of time and are effectively immune from enforcement action. So they are lawful development now. There's a couple of conditions on the addendum, one of which seeks to secure the closure of the existing southern entrance to the site, which is opposite the Speaker's property. And it's the entrance that he's mentioned to you in addressing the committee, and that condition would secure the closure of that entrance, and the entrance to the site would therefore be further up the lane, which is also an existing access. There is a further condition in relation to the woodland to the west, which is an ancient woodland. The properties actually, the site in the properties was amended to move the 2 houses away from the woodland, and there is a condition requiring a tree protection plan and a method statement for developing the site in proximity to those trees in order to protect them, basically. That's it. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Right, over to you, members. Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. I do know this site. Up until the change in boundaries, it was actually part of my old Penheim ward. Yeah, the road is a dangerous road. Cyclists do go very quickly on there. It used to be part of the old Ironman, I think probably the Grand Prix, and people used to practice around there. So you did get cyclists going at quite excessive speeds. I appreciate what the residents just said about the lower entrance. Yeah, if that's closed off, thank you. That's good. I regularly attend Rivington and Brinscall Advisory Group, and often a local farmer comes on there who makes exactly the same comments that the residents just made about excessive speed and things on that road. So, yeah, can't you think it's all right? There's obviously not been any accidents there, the Highway Authority, but yeah, I do appreciate his comments and I do actually agree with him.
Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Heaton.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move the recommendation. The issue about the speed in traffic is obviously not a planning issue. It's a police matter and an highways matter, which, you know, the residents or the local councillors may be able to do something about. So I'll move the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Can somebody second that, please? Councillor Moor, thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? I would urge residents to report any incidents to the police, whether even if there's accidents and the people don't stop, because it's also an issue in the other part of the ward, in Rivington area, and it's the same ones driving a circuit. So I would urge you to any incidents to report them, and then they are logged. So that gives us more power to our elbow. Okay, so I've got a proposer and a seconder. So all those in favour of the officer recommendation, please show. Okay, Alex, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to approve the application for planning permission subject to a Section 106 legal agreement.
Okay. Thank you. If you've just come for that, if you want to go, you don't have to stay with us.
Thanks, Chair. This application seeks permission in principle for a minimum of 6 dwellings and a maximum of 9 dwellings on land that is opposite Hampton Grove in Clayton-Le-Woods. The application site is an open field located in the Greenbelt to the west side of Wigan Road. The scope of applications seeking permission in principle is limited to location, land use and amount of development. Other matters should be considered at the technical details consent stage should permission in principle be granted. As such, matters relating to highways, ecology, character and amenity impacts fall outside of what the planning authority can assess as part of this current application. It's in considering matters of principle, the framework sets out that the development of new buildings in the Greenbelt should be regarded as inappropriate, subject to a number of exceptions. The proposed development would not meet with any of these exceptions and is therefore inappropriate development, which is harmful by definition. There would be no addition. There would also be additional harm to the purposes of including land within the Greenbelt that would be caused through encroachment. There are no very special circumstances that are considered to exist that would outweigh the definitional harm to the Greenbelt, which must be accorded substantial weight in line with the framework in addition to the other identified harm. It's therefore recommended that permission in principle is refused. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Ian. Claire, do you wish to speak now?
Good evening, members. I act on behalf of Mr Shaw, the applicant of this planning application. The planning application has been recommended by officers for the refusal of planning permission on the basis that the proposal does not represent limited infilling. As discussed in the supporting statement submitted with the application, although the site can accommodate several dwellings, it is our view that the proposed development does represent limited infilling. Members will be aware that policy HS7 of the local plan permits limited infilling for housing, providing that the existing buildings form a clearly identifiable built-up frontage. The site lies within that frontage with buildings on either side, and its development does not extend that frontage, and the proposal would complement the character and setting of the existing buildings. As described in the officer's recommendation report, we acknowledge that the application site does not strictly lie within a built-up frontage. Notwithstanding this, through the granting of the recent permission in principle application along the Wigan Road frontage for 4 dwellings, the application site will be surrounded by development, and it is a logical site for new housing within this locality, and one which fundamentally will not extend the existing frontage. In addition, even if the extant permission in principle development along the road frontage were to be taken out of the equation, the application site remains surrounded on 3 of its boundaries by built development. For those members who have visited the site, you will have observed that the site lacks any typical Greenbelt character. The rapid major residential developments across the road have created a suburban character, with this parcel of land being the final piece of the puzzle to be developed. Its protection is of no benefit to the Greenbelt. There are many appeal decisions where limited infilling is not restricted to 1 or 2 dwellings along a built frontage, but are rather landlocked sites akin to the application site which can accommodate multiple dwellings. Also, there is nothing within national or local policy that restricts the number of dwellings that can be considered acceptable in relation to limited infilling. Consequently, whilst the application site does not represent a traditional or typical infill plot as per the description in policy HS7, we firmly believe its development will represent the limited infilling of a vacant piece of land already surrounded by development and therefore is compliant with paragraph 149E of the NPPF. Furthermore, the development of the site with several substantially sized houses will bring economic benefits to the borough through the requisite SIL payments and future council tax, whilst contributing to the borough's housing supply. We would therefore respectfully request that members vote in favour of the application and approve this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back on anything or not? No. Okay, members, over to you. Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. It is in the Greenbelt. There's no getting away from that, and that's why it's been refused. If at some point the development goes ahead at the front, the frontage, then it might be in the future looked in a different way. But at the moment, it's not. There's no such thing as a traditional infill. It's not infill, traditional or otherwise. So as it's Greenbelt, as it stands at the moment, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Sherwood.
I agree with Councillor Moore. I don't see that as an infill site, and I think just because it's surrounded by other developments, I don't think that's a good enough reason. That's my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? No. I've had a... Sorry, Councillor Heaton, I nearly missed you. How could I do that?
Did you second the proposal?
I think you did.
Did you? Oh, right. I agree with the officer's recommendation. It is Greenbelt. It's not an infill at the present time. And the applicant has the, if they feel it is, they have the right to go to appeal. But at this present time, I'm supporting the recommendation.
Okay, everybody happy to move to the vote? Okay, we'll move to the vote then. Okay, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to refuse the application for planning permission in principle for the reasons set out at paragraph 1 of the officer report.
Thank you. If you want to go, please feel free. Item 3F, 7 Oakmere Avenue, Withnell, pages 173 to 194. Ian's going to present this item. The recommendation is permission in principle is refused for the reasons set out in the report. I've 2 registered speakers, an objector, Angela Bozeski, and the applicant, Andy Baker. Ian? Oh, that's what I'm just reading what it says on here. He's giving me duff information. It's down for refusal, but it's not on my papers that I've just written. Anyway, for the reasons signed. Okay, Ian?
Planning permission.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I only read what's written.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the erection of a part 2-storey, part single-storey extension to the rear, 2-storey extension to the side and single-storey extension to the front at 7 Oakmere Avenue in Withnell. The application site comprises a semi-detached dwelling within a line of similar properties and is located in the Greenbelt. The framework and local plan allow for the extension of buildings within the greenbelt, provided that they do not result in disproportionate additions over and above the size of the original building. In this instance, the proposed extensions would not exceed a 50% increase in the volume of the original dwelling and are not considered disproportionate. As such, the development would not result in any unacceptable harm to the greenbelt. The proposed extensions to the side and front will be visible in the street scene along Oakmere Avenue. These would not be overly prominent and would be appropriately subservient, whilst the design and siting would not be harmful to the street scene or the character of the area, given the variety of additions in evidence at other properties. The proposed development would increase the scale of built form in close proximity to the dwellings at numbers 6 and 8 Oakmere Avenue, to the extent that there would be a detrimental impact on light and outlook to the windows serving these properties, such that there would be an unacceptable impact on amenity, contrary to policy HS5 of the Chorley local plan, and for this reason it's recommended that the application is refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Angela?
First of all, I would like to thank Councillor Margaret France for bringing this application before committee, the Planning Committee for their time, and the Planning Officer for providing such a detailed application report. I am very grateful that the Planning Officer is recommending that the planning permission is refused on the grounds that the first floor element would result in unacceptable adverse impacts of loss of light, overbearing effect and loss of outlook for me at number 8 Oakmere Avenue and my neighbours at number 6. My neighbours and I have made strong objections on these grounds, and we welcome and wholeheartedly agree with the refusal recommendation. Secondly, I would like the committee to consider objections with regard to the single-storey rear extension and the single-storey front extension. My objection to the single-storey rear extension is due to the fact that my kitchen window will face the side of it, and it will be less than 2 metres away from this window. Not only will I lose light, but my outlook from this window will be completely replaced by my neighbour's brick wall and pitch roof, which will be deplorable. With regard to the single-storey front extension, the Planning Officer states that there are a number of porches and front extensions that have been added to houses along Oakmere Avenue, and that as there are a variety of front extensions on Oakmere Avenue, the existing building line is not a defining feature. However, I must point out here that there are no front extensions on Oakmere Avenue, only small porches, all of which have been sympathetically built to fit in with the character of the existing buildings. 2 semi-detached properties have had small canopies attached above the doorways, and the same 2 properties have bay windows, but these windows were part of their original build. They have not been extended. With this in mind, the existing building line is a defining feature. Chorley planning policy states that front extensions are rarely permitted, so we are at a loss as to why this application is being treated so favourably. Furthermore, the proposal involves enlarging the existing lounge window, moving the position of the front door and the small window next to it, and adding a second small window. Therefore, the new style frontage plus extension work will result in loss of all symmetry with my own property and will be completely out of character with the other dwellings. Several neighbours have objected to the proposed front extension, and I agree with Councillor Margaret France, who says that if this is permitted, it will spoil the whole look of Oakmere Avenue. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Have I got Andy, please?
Hi, Andy Bacon, I'm the occupier. I bought this as my retirement home some time ago to do some sympathetic work to it. I spoke to both the neighbours prior to doing this. The number 6 has already got a 2-storey extension across the back, double height, already next to their existing neighbour. So in sympathy, we didn't do that. We went down for a single storey on one side to make sure we didn't block the light. There is already a fence opposite the said kitchen window, which is 6 foot high. So this will be a 2-foot extension to that existing fence only, and should be looking at our existing fence as was before. We've not gone right across the side of the drive like other neighbours further down the close. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 all have full extensions right across the extent of the drive. We don't want to do that to allow access into the rear of the property and to allow access for the amenities such as fire or bins or anything else like that. What we try to do is create something that's going to be my family home. Now, what we needed for my family home is I'm a carer for my 70-year-old uncle who needs a downstairs toilet. The only place we can physically get it is on the front right of the property, because that's where we can get the downstairs toilet to fit into the property itself. And that's been the biggest difficulty, and that's why we proposed putting the stairs where we did on the outside of the building. Subsequent changes we've done in consultation with Chorley Council is actually made the extension bigger, not smaller, because we were not proposing to put a side roof on the house. We proposed just to put the stairs on the outside of the house. So we've done a lot of work in terms of making sure the windows are correct, to making sure that the bedrooms are right, and making sure that we don't block off or change the overall function. To the front of the home is an unadopted road, and there's no sight forward. So it is, at the moment, there's no view of the road from the front. There's only a view of the road from the side. So it's not going to change the front on view for all, except for the people who walk past. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Right, it's over to you, members. Councillor Ainsworth, Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. Can I move that the committee support the officer's recommendations to refuse the application? Just looking at it, I just don't think it's appropriate for the area, the development at the moment.
Thank you, Chair. I'm finding it difficult to visualise what already exists and what might be there. It seems quite complex to me, what's been allowed in the past and what might be allowed in the future. As I say, I'm struggling to visualise it. And to be quite honest, I think I'd like to go and see it. It's not very often I propose a site visit, but on this occasion, I'd like to go and have a look and see what's going on exactly in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, it's not often I will second a site visit, but I will on this occasion. I think we do need to go and have a look at it. It seems that the properties at either side have already extended and have windows looking at the potential application site. So therefore I've sort of cut it off from development for that reason. But I'm not quite sure. I need to actually go and have a look at this as well. So I would second a site visit. Second the proposal for that. Please.
Okay, thank you. Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. I do know the area. Walk up there quite regularly, and I think probably a wise decision from Councillor Hilton and Councillor Morwood. Don't know the area. I don't think any other properties have an extension on the front of the little porches, but yeah, I think they're absolutely right, not knowing the area, to have a site visit.
Anybody else wish to comment? From the chair, as I say, I think I'd be more comfortable when looking at it for myself before we make any decisions. So we'll move. If nobody else has anything to say, we'll go for it. All those in favour of a site visit, please show. Okay, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to defer determination of the application for a site visit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if you come for that, if you want to. Thank you. Let's turn that over. Item nearly finished. 3G. 11 Burgh, Meadows, Chorley, page 195 to 210. Adele's going to present this item. Planning permission is granted, subject to conditions. I have no registered speakers. Adele.
Thank you, Chair. This is a straightforward application for a modest extension to the existing property. It's not something that would normally come before members. It would normally be dealt with by officers under delegated powers. However, in this instance, the applicant's wife is actually a member of my team, so under the Constitution, the application is here before us. There are no objections, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Heath.
Yeah, I have absolutely no objection to this. Like I say, it's only been brought before the committee in terms of openness and transparency, so I'm quite happy to propose officer recommendations.
Councillor Hayton.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all those, anybody else, nobody else have any comments, I'll move to the vote. No, okay. What does the light you go?
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to grant the application for planning permission subject to conditions.
Moving on, item 3H, Tatton Community Centre, Silverdale Road, pages 211 to 224. Without further sent this item, planning permission is granted subject to conditions. No registered speakers. Head out.
Thank you, Chair. The application site is located in the settlement of Chorley, in the northwest corner of Tatton Recreation Ground to the east of Worthy Street. The application seeks planning permission retrospectively for pole-mounted CCTV cameras, and the pole has a height of approximately 8.5 metres. The field of vision of the cameras includes the recreation ground site only, and no representations have been received, either in support or in opposition. It's not considered that the development has an unacceptable adverse impact on neighbour amenity or as a consequence of any perceived loss of privacy, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
I will move the recommendation, Chair.
Seconded, Chair.
Anybody else? Councillor Hilton?
I just want to comment, it's obviously a retrospective application and it's a council application, so I think the council need to learn lessons and lead by example by submitting the applications through the correct process without it being retrospective. Thank you, Chair.
Smack ourselves on with it. If nobody else wishes to comment, I'll move to the vote.
Missed it.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve the retrospective application for planning permission.
Thank you. No other urgent items, so with that, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance and have a lovely Christmas, and we'll see one another next year.
See you at the council meeting next week, won't we?
It's unusual, usually the last week.